As a golf coach, this swing right here is one of my favourites to watch on the PGA Tour, and it has just earned Kristoffer Reitan, at the time of recording today's full swing analysis video of him, his first win on the PGA Tour at the Truist Championship. So, phenomenal victory, closed it out in style, birdies on 14 and 15, and parred his way home from there on out to make it look quite easy. Very cool under pressure, and there's a lot to like about his golf swing here. Let's play Kristoffer on in full flow to show you exactly what we're working with here in today's video. There's quite a lot going on in Kristoffer's technique that I'm a big fan of, and particularly that of his move through the golf ball. But before we get too ahead of ourselves here, let's start off from the beginning here. So when we take a look at his setup position, we're starting to see a lot of nice checkpoints that you at home watching this can take and try and apply into your own setup that will help you have some success with your own golf. We see his hands hang directly underneath his shoulders, and we see his lower back quite neutral. There's no excessive arching or rounding out from the lumbar spine. And when we look at his upper spine, we see a gentle rounding out through his thoracic, which puts his neck tilt then in a position to be able to look out of the middle of his eye sockets at the golf ball and access something I've talked about in previous Tour Pro swing analysis videos called foveal vision. So sounds pretty technical, but simply just means they're able to look out the middle of their eye sockets. So really important for depth perception. So for golf, of course, the first thing that should come to your mind when you hear that is low points control. A lot of amateurs could certainly benefit from trying to imitate a little bit of this setup right here in regards to the posture, because so many amateurs work with the concept that they think, it's a misconception really, but they think that they should have a straight line from their back, from the tailbone up to the back of their head, and that puts them in a position where their head is much more tilted up and they're looking down their nose at the golf ball and can't look out the middle of the eye socket, and as a result their strikes tend to be very inconsistent. As we bring Kristoffer into his golf swing here, let's pause him at P2, position 2 shaft level to the ground in the backswing here, and we can see a nice checkpoint of club is directly in line with the hands, and the blade is doing a nice job of matching that of his spine angle here. So we also see at this checkpoint of P2 the connection maintained from his lead arm to the chest. As we continue to play Kristoffer on from here up towards the top of his backswing, let's pause him here at P3, left arm level to the ground, and we can see his lead arm is working across the body and his hands are entering his right arm through the lower section of his bicep. If you're an amateur golfer watching this and keen to hit the ball a little bit further, which I would imagine is probably the majority of people watching any golf video ever on the internet, this is a great checkpoint to look out for. As his lead arm works across the body and his hands enter towards the lower section of the bicep, his hands and his club are tracing an arc around the body, and that is allowing him to tap into something called angular momentum. So his hands are working on an arc around him. The same principle as to why a footballer would not run up to hit a free kick if they're looking to get maximum power from a straight line. They would arc their run for angular momentum to be created. So golf swings are going to be no different if you're trying to maximize the distance that you can generate. Before we play things any further, because of what we're going to speak of in the downswing here, I'm going to draw in a reference line for just, as I mentioned a second ago, how those hands are entering through the lower section of the bicep. So bear that in mind. We're going to come back to that in a minute and leave that line right there on the screen. As I play Kristoffer up to the top of his backswing, we can see the club face is closed to the shafts, and when we look at the lower half, we can see that his lead knee has flexed as the trail knee has extended some amounts to create this gap here between the knees. His trail knee doesn't lock out completely, but it does extend enough to be able to put him in a position where he can tap into the required hip turn and also turn of the upper body to be able to complete a full rotation in the backswing. Before we play Kristoffer on into his downswing, let's quickly sketch in a line highlighting the shaft position at the top. And what you're going to notice here is his first move down. You can see how the shaft shallows from that point here, like so. But what I think is going to be quite interesting for a lot of amateurs to see is, although the shaft is shallowing here, quite evidently. What's also happening is when we reference back to the green line that we left on the screen, highlighting where his hands had entered at the base of the bicep, we can see, although the shaft is shallowing, the hand pat is actually steepening here, as you can see. So it's exiting, so it entered at the lower section of the bicep when he was coming into lead arm level to the ground in the backswing. And then as you play him down, the shaft shallows, but the hands exit more through the upper section of the bicep. As we continue to play Kristoffer on into and through impact, you're going to see another excellent checkpoint that would certainly be worth your time spending working on trying to implement it into your own technique next time you hit the range at this point right here. So just before shaft reaches level to the ground in the follow through, you can see Kristoffer is doing a nice job of still having the club head visible, but not so much that of the grip. So what you're seeing here is the hands orbiting an arc around the body. So in terms of simplifying this, if you gave yourself the task of, by this point, just before the shaft being level to the ground on the front side of the swing, you want to try and hide the grip, but still have the club head visible. So most amateurs would actually do the opposite to that of which you see Kristoffer perform here, in that their hands would kick out and they would have a lot of roll with that trail hands, and the club head would be whipped around the body, so they would actually be hiding the club head and showing the hands. So if you're someone who struggles to have some consistency with your directional control, or even that of consistency on your strikes, definitely an image to try and imitate right here. As we progress things a touch more through, you can see that the head stays down for quite a while, still fixated on where impact had taken place, and we can actually still see the golf ball here as it takes off towards the palm tree in the background. We see zero gap forming between the knees. That trail foot is still banking excellently as well. We can see a very stable inclination to the ground maintained. And we see the shaft exit quite low on the front side as well. As we continue to play Kristoffer up on into the conclusion of a swing here, you'll see the head eventually release the track, the flight of the golf ball. If we take him back a split second before that, you can see the right arm matches that of the shoulders inclination down to the ground as well. Another nice checkpoint for amateurs who, when we talked about amateurs make the, I wouldn't say mistake, because there's no right and wrong in the golf swing, but I would say there are certainly easier and harder ways to swing. And when we talked about Kristoffer doing an excellent job of hiding the grip and showing the club head here at this point, amateurs who do the opposite often sees them by this stage of the follow through, that right arm being quite a bit higher through the collarbone rather than across that of the shoulder plane here. But all in all, I must say, a phenomenal golf swing to watch. Last weekend, seeing Kristoffer earn his first win on the PGA Tour, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more coming very soon. If you've enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons. It really helps with the growth of the channel, but it also just ensures that you won't miss out on any future content coming from myself here on the channel, of which there's plenty lined up to be released very shortly. For any golfer who has stayed until the end of a lengthy video like this, which is quite detailed, orientated, and very heavy on the educational side of things when it comes to the golf swing, you strike me as someone who is serious about learning and serious about finding ways to improve their own golf. If that is the case, then you can reach out and connect with myself today, regardless of where you are in the world. My name is Seán Marks. I'm a PGA professional and I specialize in teaching the full swing, and I help golfers worldwide through an app called Skillest that I use for my online coaching, help players reach their full potential tee to green. The online program that I run on Skillest that helps people of all ages and all skill levels reach their full potential tee to green is called the Long Game Transformation Program. The minimum commitment for this program for students looking to sign up is that of a 3-month period. Often is the case where students want to continue on long beyond this point because they've seen the value in it, their game has seen the improvements, and they want to continue to push the boundaries and see what's possible. But let's say that you only wanted to sign up for the first 3 months. Here is exactly what I can promise you will learn. You will learn the 3 fundamentals required to completely transform your long game, and that is strike, direction, and distance. The first, in strike, you need the ability to control your low points. Second of all, when we touch on direction, you need to be able to have a predictable curve and a consistent shot shape that you can rely on out on the course. And third is distance. You need to be able to know how to pump enough distance into your game to be competitive at the level of this sport that you desire to play at. This program is designed to give you as much support as you need. There's nothing pre-recorded. Everything is personalized to the individual. There's open communication channels that you can message me whenever you want. Anytime you have a question, you can message me. There's unlimited feedback on the program. And if you're ever in doubt as to whether you're doing a drill correctly or whatever the case may be, you can message me and get feedback within a turnaround time of never any more than 24 hours. If you're ready to start improving today, I will leave a link underneath the video in the description box where you can download Skillist. Alternatively, you can search for it on the App Store and get started on your improvement journey today. If you want in-person coaching with myself in Ireland, I also work with players based in Ireland online, but if you'd like in-person coaching, you can see my booking diary on my website, seanmarksgolf.com. So I look forward to seeing you, whether it's in person or remotely online, very soon.